for this video, I am going to be talking about my book, and I'm also going to be diving deep into certain topics as far as going deep within yourself and the subconsciousness and everything of that sort. So if you're into that type of topic, then this is the video for you. And I'm also going to be talking about writing my book and when it comes to writing stories that can be uncomfortable for certain people to read. So if you are a entrepreneur, someone who's writing books, then this could be the video for you also. And I'm also making this video for myself, something to look back on. So yeah. So to start off this video, I have written a book called Cinderella. It's a darker version of a Cinderella story, and I spelled it with a S instead of a C because I wanted that to represent the word sin. And I wanted this book to be pretty deep, but also a fantasy, something enjoyable for people to read, but at the same time, pretty deep enough to make someone think. So when it came to that writing process of putting deep thought and fantasy together, it was fun, but it was a bit of a task. And I also made this book, I've written it in a way where almost anyone can read it. It's like a free flowing book. And when I was thinking of this book and my audience, which I pictured mostly women, I pictured women who live in the suburbs, what they read. I pictured women living in the ghetto and what they read. And I pictured women that's in the goth community and everything. And I feel like I combined it all of that together. So anyone from those communities can read this book and enjoy it no matter the background. So it was a lot of thought process going into this, but it was still pretty fun at the same time. As of right now, I am writing book 2 of my Cinderella series. It's going to be like 2 or 3 books to the series. So I'm mainly going to be talking about book 1 because it's obviously done and up on Amazon. And when it came to writing that book, I kept it, at a certain level of when it comes to Cinderella, something that we all know about. She has a stepmother that treats her like shit. She has stepsisters that treat her like shit. And she wears these raggedy clothes. She cleans all day. And she is miserable. So I kept it, certain elements of that I kept in the Cinderella book. Because, that's what makes Cinderella Cinderella, because of that background. But for mine, I made it a bit deeper, of course. It starts off with her talking about being in pain, and she stays in this basement all day. She's in the darkness, so she's to herself, so she's always in thought, and she starts to hear voices that she feels like is her own, and she feels like she's going crazy because of that. And I felt like when it comes to reality, I feel like this is something we can all relate to when it comes to like moments and times where it feels like pain to us and it feels like we're in a dark space. So her being in this dark basement was subliminal to people who are in dark spaces in their life and they're in pain and they feel like they can hear sometimes, depending on the person, sometimes they go crazy. They feel like they hear voices, stuff like that. Depending on how deep your darkness goes, like wherever you're at in life. So, since I wanted my book to be pretty dark, I went there, spoke about the voices in her head. I spoke about the dark basement that she's in, and she's always to herself, always in thought. And people, they tend to run away from their thoughts, but she can't really run from her thoughts because she's always to herself. So when it came to writing that, it was pretty fun, but I wanted it to be something that can make someone think, but at the same time, still make it a enjoyable read. On top of that, when it comes to her character in this book, she does something that she finds that is pretty off because she notices that she does something that not everybody else does, which is drinking rat's blood. And yeah, she notices that everybody else eats regular food, but for some reason for her, when she eats regular food, she can't digest it properly. She she doesn't like it. So therefore, she opts out to like drinking rat blood and stuff like that. And that's the only thing that she finds that she can, you know, ingest properly and be able to eat enjoyably, if that makes sense. And the reason why I did that, for like two reasons. So one, in the Disney movie version, Cinderella, she's friends with the rats and whatnot. So for my book, since it's darker, I did it a bit opposite. I made her the villain of the rats instead. And also, I did this because I oftentimes think of vegans and how some of them feel like being vegan is the right way to go. And, eat what you want or whatever, do what's best for you. But I also find that they look at meat eaters like, you know, what meat eaters, them eating meat is wrong and blah, 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 blah. But I notice certain people that I come across, each diet is different for everybody. And there was this one girl that I knew, she was Russian, she was a personal trainer, and she was telling me how she eats like her ancestors. And she noticed when she started consuming more meat into her diet, she was more healthy and she had abs for days. And I came across a few other people like that. So, I often wondered like, what's wrong to someone could be right to someone else. And there's no wrong or right way to it. Like the whole good and evil thing. Like what is evil to you could be good to somebody else, and what's good to somebody else could be evil to you, whatever. So for this book, since she's always deep in thought and to herself, she often wonders like, is she evil for this? For consuming, rats and animals while they're alive versus just eating regular food. Like, is she a bad person for this? So I went a little bit into that. Well, not really a little bit, a little bit more into that with my book and made it like thought provoking. So when it comes to this character Cinderella, I had made other things about her that is pretty off, and she questions herself in other aspects, and she questions the Bible. Now, this is a topic that I know certain people are sensitive to, and that's okay. I feel like when it comes to writing books, you gotta make things a bit uncomfortable sometimes, and that's what makes your book stand out. So I went along and dove deep into this question in the Bible and her feeling like she is this good person. Why is all of this is happening to her? And when it comes to real life, I find that there are people, including myself at one point, I had questioned myself like, I'm such a good person. Why is all of this happening to me? So I put that into the book because I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. So in the book, she questions the Ten Commandments, and she feels like she's just a good person. Like, why is all this happening to her? And then she also is in such shock when she finds her fairy god demon, not even a fairy godmother or anything, but she has this fairy god demon who like helps her, gets to the ball. And at first she is just like in shock after going through something traumatic, and she's crying on the floor, and then this fairy god demon appears, and then she's just like, whoa, like ain't no way. So, that was a fun that was fun to write, but it was also like very thought provoking. Like, here I am doing all these good things. I'm praying, I'm reading the Bible, this, that, and the third, and yet I have a very god demon, and this demon helps me to the ball. Like, what is this? Like, what is this reality that I live in and questioning? Like, it's really deep. But yeah, it was a fun read, but I do feel like it's a sensitive topic as well. And I knew that going into writing this book. And to top it off, I have the prince speaking in the book. So it was a back and forth between Cinderella and the prince. And the prince's background, he comes from a Moorish royalty background. And I didn't go too deep on like the Moorish Empire, but I do have the Moors in my book. And I also have this other ancient civilization in my book as well to make it more unique, something to help it stand out. And I feel like so far, for the people who have bought my book, and I mean, I don't know everybody who's bought my book, but the some people that I know, and there's one person who recently bought my book. I don't know her personally, but her boyfriend had said that at first she couldn't really get into the book like that, but as she kept reading, she really enjoyed it, and she felt like it was well written. And when it comes to feedback from people who've read my book, they've all said pretty like similar things. Like some people, they was able to like dive into it completely. They was just so drawn in. Others who have more of a Christian background was just like, I can't handle this. And then there was just like other people who gave feedback like how she gave it. But either way, they all said that it was like very well written, and they wanted to question my thoughts and how I think because of the stuff that I put into my book. So I feel like I really done a good job with that. I've really gotten what I wanted to get out to make it a enjoyable read, but also at the same time have things in there that makes people think. And yeah, I think I did good with that. For the second book, it's a little bit more difficult to write out, even though like the concept is the same to make it a enjoyable read, but also thought provoking. The first book was easy to write out. I wrote that book within like 2 months. The editing was a different process, but writing it all out was pretty easy. For this one, for the second book, it's a little bit difficult because for the first book, the concept was like more of a surface level. When someone is going through some pain, they're questioning themselves, they're questioning reality. But at the same time, we all have gifts and abilities to prosper. And towards the end, she finds out her gift. She finds out who she is. Um, but at the very end, she gets brought under. So now the second book starts off with her in the underworld, per se. And subliminally, I chose to make it the underworld only because it's like someone that is going deep within themselves to find who they truly are and how they're going to navigate this new self once they find like their higher self. Which path are they going to take? Are they going to take the good path or the bad path? Stuff like that. So it does get deeper. And I find it so interesting how, even though I'm writing her character like this is her next journey, I feel like I myself is going through this as well. I feel like I'm diving into the unknown when it comes to putting out books, because I always wanted to write books and put it out. And although I have ventured into other entrepreneurships, like I had like a skincare line right before 2020 hit. I was making jewelry, I was doing stuff here and there to like practice, but writing books was my main goal. And now that I'm diving into it and I'm putting stuff out, it's like, and even though I'm seeing some progress, it's still pretty unknown to me, like how this journey is going to go. And I feel like I'm being challenged in certain ways when it comes to this. So I'm like going under as well as this character. And that's so funny. As I'm talking, like the clouds are like making this a little bit darker. But anyway, so that's where I'm up to with the second book, going deep into your consciousness, going deep within yourself, and finding who you really are, and like being challenged. Like now that you know who you are, like you're going to be challenged. So that is the second book, and I'm trying to get it done by like the end of June ish, early July. I don't know. But right now it's like it's just so difficult to wrap my head around when it comes to this new like venture of this character in my book. So with everything that I said, I hope this video inspired whoever's watching this to, dive deep into your material, whatever it is that you're making, and don't be afraid to put things out there that is also thought provoking, or whatever it is that you're making. It doesn't have to be anything too deep, but just to not be afraid to embrace like all of your creativity. And also, I hope that I gave some good advice if whoever's watching this and they're writing books themselves, um, what it takes to set yourself apart from other people who write books. Right now in 2024, to be honest, when it comes to putting out books, although I am getting sales, I feel like if this economy was better, I'm not gonna say feel. I know if this economy was better, I would be getting more sales than what I'm getting now. And that's just the reality of this. And that's okay. Like, I'm still going to keep on continuing making books because this is what I love to do anyway. So I hope that inspires you to keep doing what you got to do, regardless of how the economy is going right now. Of course, be smart and pace yourself. Don't be all reckless, but yeah, I hope this video helped you out.